guys, Tom by 601 Battleships. One of the three big classes in this game. I'm sure you've played them. Well, recently I feel like there's been a bit of a kerfuffle, a bit of an interesting fact stated out there from a fellow World of Warships Legends content creator. They made a video claiming that they did some scientific testing between full salvo fire and ripple fire, and full salvo is the only way to go. Now, in the video, I'll be honest, I didn't see any experimental methodology, and it was just pointed to on paper a bunch of times that the numbers were there. So for me, I was a bit curious about this, so I wanted to go out there and test it myself, and that's what today's video is. We're going to go ahead, talk through our design methodology for testing, then we're going to go ahead and cover some of the interesting things we found during testing, and then we're going to do a bit of statistical analysis on that testing to determine whether it was a good test or not. So, if that sounds interesting, make sure you stay tuned for a message from our sponsor. That's right, guys. Science, it's kind of hard to do. It's kind of a bit expensive. It takes a while to occur. And, well, I didn't want to do this video without a good sponsor. And, well, the fine folks at Raid Shadow Legends agreed to sponsor this video. Shout out to the folks over at Raid Shadow Legends. If you've never played it, well, guys, we've been waiting on a mobile version of this game for how long now? Raid Shadow Legends is a primarily mobile-based game, an MMO RPG sort of battle arena that you can do PvP or PvE in. They have like 700 different kinds of champions, and you can upgrade your champions in order to form the perfect team. And then they have all sorts of activities that you can use that team of champions. And if you want to try out Raid Shadow Legends, we have a special offer for you. Use my link in the description or scan the QR code to get an awesome starter pack that'll help you crush everybody today. Once again, use that link down in the description box below, and let's get back to the video. So, salvo versus ripple fire. How are we going to test which one is more effective? Well, we need to design an experiment, and to do that, I think we need a couple of pieces. One, we need a map to test on, and thanks to training rooms, have a repeatable scenario that we can do. Personally, what I wanted to do in this scenario is find some map layout that allows me to cruise a boat 10 kilometers off of the flank of the far left or far right spawn of the red team. Once I eliminate that far right or far left flank, then I would be able to motor about to probably where they are and end at 10 kilometers to the middle set of 3 boats, then finish that off with motoring to the middle spawn and being able to fire at the far left or the far right, thereby basically, one, controlling the firing range of all of the tests. I wanted to be basically 10 kilometers plus or minus a kilometer. I figure give a little bit of wiggle room in there. And then I wanted a consistent set of ships. And, well, I was just going to go with Montana's. Going to have the bots set to not fire and not to move. And while testing various maps to be able to find this sort of condition, the map I ended up settling on was Riposte. There's a couple of reasons why I settled on Riposte. First, the team spawns are kind of clustered towards the middle, which means the boats are a little bit closer than they usually would be on either side. The second is they have lots of open water to the left and the right-hand side of the flank. The one downside to choosing Riposte, well, they only have domination currently coded for Riposte. There's no capture the base, which kind of makes sense given its layout. The capture the base would just be team deathmatch. But that does affect us because if we wanted to go and test and basically do a murder the other team simulator 9000, those of you who can do math will probably realize that the enemy team will run out of points before we actually are able to murder all of them, which means that would cut our test a little bit shorter. So how did we solve for that? Well, we did one thing, and it sort of helped us a couple of times, but it ended up not really helping us in the long run because most of the time we actually naturally ran out of time. So what we ended up doing is we put one bot on the enemy team as an enemy destroyer, and we took away his ability to fire. What that did was a couple of, I'm going to call it like 30% of the time, that enemy bot would end up capturing one of the domination points. And when it did that, we were then able to finish out the test for the full length of a match for 15 minutes. Great, awesome. We have one piece of the puzzle now solved. Our map that we have selected is Riposte. We know about where all of the enemy ships are going to spawn. What do we do next? Well, we need to figure out our boat. And this is where this is probably going to get a little controversial. So, what I wanted from a ship was a battleship, because we are testing battleship ripple fire versus full salvo. I wanted a fast firing boat, because I wanted as many data sets as possible. I also wanted the battleship to be fast. And well, a fast battleship with a high rate of fire, and bonus, if it has lots of barrels, well, that's really only going to be one ship at the higher tiers, and that is going to be Burgoyne. And I can already hear some of you in the comments right now, Tommy, you're not choosing the most accurate ship? Why not? You're testing accuracy. Yes, we are testing accuracy, but more importantly, we are testing the delta between full salvo fire and ripple fire. So it doesn't matter how accurate the base ship is. What matters is the measurable difference between full salvo fire and ripple fire. So we're going to go with the French ships because we can get lots of data points. We can motor to the spot 10 kilometers off the flank relatively quickly. And that is going to be the plan. As far as the commander goes for the ship, we are running Juprot. He is a brawler, and we've built him for speed because that is where I kind of wanted to build this to. It takes about 5 minutes to cross the map in the battleship, so any time that I could save by increasing the top speed of the vessel, whether that be during the engine boost or during just straight out full-on flight, I was going to do. So our commander build is Juprot with a heavy focus in speed. Cool. There's all of that. Now let's get into how we did the test. So we'd get out there into the middle of the ocean, and what we would do is we would have one match where we would just do full salvo fire, and we would do another match where we would do ripple fire. If you would like to watch the entire length of this testing, we did do a live stream. I'll go ahead and link that down below, but the footage you're seeing right now is from one of those tests. Additionally, we did actually have our data live up on the screen as it occurred, and we did our averages and stuff between each match, usually during the sailing out for the phase. You can see how the numbers intermixed and mingled throughout the time. If you want to take a look at that spreadsheet, that link will also be down in the description box below. You'll see that there's basically sets of numbers that are in green and sets of numbers that are in gray. These represent one match. We did a total of 14 matches for this testing with 149 salvos fired for ripple and 147 salvos fired for full. If you multiply that by 12 or really 3, you are looking at pretty decent sized data sets in order to be able to definitively determine what's what within accuracy wise. So one thing to note, we did have a protocol of omitting data if we killed the vessel with the salvo. Basically what we were doing is using the shell counter on the right hand side of the screen in order to tell us how many hits out of 12 we were getting. If we killed a ship with a salvo, we don't know how many of those shells truly landed on the vessel before the counting sort of timed out. So instead, what we did was just count the salvos that we know didn't kill the ship, and then if we killed the ship with the salvo, that data would not be inputted into the charts. With that, I think that pretty much covers all of our testing methodology. Now let's get into the idea behind this myth and kind of explain the mechanics behind whether a full salvo or ripple fire will work. What you need to understand is the back-end mechanics of World of Warships, the way that dispersion is determined. In World of Warships Legends, basically what happens is each time you pull the trigger, a dice is cast. The proponents of full salvo fire believe that it's one die cast for the full trigger pull that then applies to each turret. The way that it's been explained to me from the devs is that it is one dice roll per turret. So you pull the trigger, and with full salvo fire, it rolls 3 simultaneous die to determine what sort of dispersion pattern, how accurate your shots are going to be. And with ripple fire, it just rolls those die as the trigger is pulled. And honestly, to think that it works in the first way is a bit weird. I don't know, you could probably use any random number generator and you can have it generate you 3 numbers simultaneously. And whenever you do that, you usually end up with different values all coming out of the simultaneous number generator. So to me personally, the idea that all 3 numbers would be the same because you're sampling that dice roll at the same moment is just a bit far-fetched. Cool. With all that said, let's go ahead and finally dive on into the data. And it was a bit interesting, I'll be honest. At the beginning of all of this, it started with ripple fire actually being a bit more accurate. In the beginning part of the test, the opening rounds, if you will, there's about a 5% delta between the two results, with ripple fire being 5% more accurate, which is interesting. But as we continued on, I'll go ahead and throw up this wonderful line graph that I've made to show you where the numbers are. And by the end of everything, after all 7 rounds, ripple fire was at 52.43%. Salvo's fire was at 51.07%. And you may be saying, Tommy, that's still not close enough. And I will say that is well within the margin of error. If we then wanted to do some statistical analysis on all this data, we could look into things like, I don't know, the standard deviation of this data. And we actually have a fairly high standard deviation. Our full salvo has a standard deviation of 1.64, and our ripple fire has a standard deviation of 1.75, both of which are considered pretty high numbers for standard deviation. Standard deviation is usually fairly low, but that's because we actually have a lot of variance in our results, which means that the margin of error within these tests is fairly large for even a large data set. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So what I ended up doing was, one of my good friends is a calculus teacher. He went to school for mathematics. I sent him all of the data. He walked me through the numbers because to him, numbers are fun, and he enjoyed being able to do a little bit of a statistical analysis. And he basically said, if there wasn't such a high variance, there's enough data sets that this could look like actual ripple fire was going to be more accurate than full salvo fire. But because of the variance, because of how big that standard deviation is, they're virtually identical. So there we have it, guys. I guess finally down on pen on paper, ripple fire, full salvo fire, it doesn't matter. Shocker. Anyways, guys, if you like the video, first off, go download Raid Shadow Legends. That description is that link is down in the description box below. But also hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. This sort of video takes a lot longer than the normal affair of videos. So if you liked it, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, because it takes a little bit more work. Anyways, guys, hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.